Hey Tamers, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm gonna take my time and build a deck with you and teach you kind of how I go about building decks, how many champions, rookies, megas, options, tamers I run or generally choose to run. We're gonna just go ahead and just do a War Greymon, since War Greymon is obviously my favorite if you don't know. So let's say we're just gonna pick 4 of these. So this War Greymon here is when you Digivolve, this Digimon gets security attack +1 for the turn. So this Digimon doesn't activate security skills and option card it checks. So honestly, I think this is still probably one of the best War Greymons that we have, just because you can attack freely into the security and you don't have to worry about hitting option cards. The only downside is the DP here, right? So when I choose megas, right, when I decide I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play a mega, I kind of see what the weakness is, and in this case here it's War Greymon's DP. The Digivolution cost is normal, usually it's 3. 4 is kind of on the higher end, so 3 is pretty good. Like I said, it's normal, so we're gonna just start off with 4. So now I have that in mind when I make a deck, and now what we're gonna do, we're just gonna start off with the Digi-Eggs, right? So keeping that in mind, we kind of know what we need to look for, kind of. So now, you know, I'm not gonna go through every card here just because I already know what these cards do. I'm probably gonna, so usually a Greymon deck has either, not, besides this card, they lack drawing power. So that's why a lot of times you'll see me use this Coromon here. When you attack with a Digimon that has Omnimon or Greymon, you can draw 1 card. So either that one, or if you can actually also go with this Demi-Meramon. In this case, when this Digimon attacks a player, it gets 1000 DP for the turn. But I'm gonna go ahead and use this Coromon just to help me with draw power here. And there's gonna be other ways that you can get DP, which we'll get to right now. So right now I'm gonna focus on drawing power and making sure I get good DP for this Greymon. So there we go. So we got our Digi-Eggs. Now let's go ahead and move into the rookies. So keep in mind, you can use whatever you want. Honestly, it just really depends how it synergizes with the overall deck, and that's why a lot of times you just see people use red. Here we go. So let's get into some rookies. So now the rookie count for the rookies here, usually the low end is 12. Anything under 12, you're gonna brick a lot. If you don't know what bricking is, that means you won't draw rookies at the start of the match, and then you'll kind of, it delays the playing process for you with that deck, therefore allowing your other opponent to kind of get what they need and then get the upper leg on you, and most of the time will beat you if you brick, but there in some cases you do actually come back. So DP power, I know that Greymon is gonna need here, so I am gonna look for this. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna hit level 3, and then I'm just gonna type in Agumon because I'm looking for this promo Agumon right here. So this promo Agumon is very, very good. I think it's a staple in every Greymon deck, just because while this Digimon has Greymon in its name, it gets 2000 DP. So this can go for War Greymon, Metal Greymon, Rise Greymon even, because it has Greymon in its name. So just FYI. So I'm gonna use 4 of those Agumon. So now if I have that Agumon underneath this Greymon here, every time I swing, it's gonna be 13,000 DP. So there we go. That kind of helps me fix the DP problem. Here, you can either choose between this Agumon that gives you 1000 for the turn, or you can choose this Agumon that gives you 2000 when you attack a player here. Usually it depends. If you feel like you're more than likely always gonna swing at security, especially with War Greymon's effect, that's gonna have the security attack +1 when you Digivolve, and that's the only time you're gonna get the security attack +1, then we can probably go with this Agumon, and that 1000 DP isn't really gonna have you swing it's not gonna have you swing over any other megas, because megas are usually 12 and up, so at that point you'll just clash. So let's just go ahead and select this Agumon here. So now we got 4 more, so now we got that DP there. So now we got 8 in total, and then we can level sort here. So you just click this right here, boom, and it automatically organizes your cards for you. I am using Digimon card.dev. I guess I should have started off with that, right? So you guys can actually go ahead and build cards. So now I know this new Agumon X antibody came out on player 1 Digivolving reveal 3 cards, add 1 Greymon or 1 Omnimon. That could be a possibility that we could use. And again, once I'm kind of done building the whole deck, I'll still kind of go back and see what other cards would fit more, especially if I play with it here. So now we could also look for searchers, because sometimes you're gonna need your pieces. If you're only running 4 Greymon, sometimes you're gonna need it, and then you don't really get it. So this Agumon is a good one to play. On play, reveal 3 cards from the top of your deck. Add 1 card with Greymon in its name, and 1 card with Omnimon in its name among them to your hand. So that could be a possibility. Let me just go ahead and see. So these are all the Agumons here. Now again, it depends how you're gonna run it. If you're gonna run certain Tamers or whatnot, you could end up using the EX1 Agumon that you reveal 3 cards, add 1 Tamer card or 1 Digimon card with Agumon in its name. That's also a possibility. For this case, let's just go ahead and add, so we got 4, 8. I'm gonna go with the 12 for now. So, I mean, we can even add this other one for the DP here. So, boom, let's say that's 12. You could do that, or you could also do 2, and then you can put in 2 searchers. But another one that you can do, which kind of maybe be better, is that new Agumon right here. Boom. On play, reveal 4 cards of your deck, add 1 card with Greymon and 1 card with Dragonkin. So honestly, I am going to, instead of this one, because I'm not sure if I'm going to run Omnimon yet. If you do, then that searcher might be better. This Agumon here is pretty good, just because you can Digivolve on top of the Koromon, and then you, or on play, I should say, you reveal 4 cards and you can add a Greymon and 1 Dragonkin. Keep in mind, every War Greymon is a Dragonkin, so if you end up hitting like a Metal Greymon, you can get Metal Greymon because it has Greymon in its name, and then you can get War Greymon because it has Dragonkin. So if you're missing both of those pieces, boom, now you got both of them with that Agumon. So let's go ahead and stick with those. So we got 4, 8, 12 rookies here. So now let's move on to the champions. And let me just switch this real quick. Level 4. And again, it depends how you want to play it. If you want to play a tribal, if you just want to focus on, DP or whatnot. See, so this Greymon here also gives you 2,000 for your turn. So there's a lot of ways to get DP here. Or if you want to do a turbo, then if you don't know what turbo means, is if you want to build up to your mega as quickly as you can. Honestly, this Greymon here is a must, especially in this deck. Just because, again, we're kind of going off with that security attack +1, right? So now if you have this Greymon underneath that War Greymon, now you're getting security attack +2 when you do swing for the turn. So that is a must, especially if you're kind of trying to go for that OTK here, because you are going to swing for potentially 13,000 with that Agumon underneath as well. Now, another route you could take, you can see back in the day when, decks always kind of had 1 or 2 blockers. Now you kind of don't really see any blockers being played, so you could run a blocker if you want. The Monochromon is good. This Birdramon is good if you want to delete Digimon with 3000 DP or less, but you're not really going to see them that much since we have X Antibody out. Another good Greymon to play would be this one, because when you Digivolve from an Agumon in a Stage Evolution cards, gain 1 memory. Now, we're using that black Agumon. Keep in mind, if we do go with this one, you can't Digivolve on top unless it's black. So, or if it's a dual color or whatnot. So let's say, okay, so we have that Greymon there, and we can either, like I said, we could go for that DP. This one's a good too because it's a 4 cost to play. So if you ever need to play it from your hand, it only costs 4. Let me keep looking here. So I'm actually gonna go ahead and use this Greymon. So we can use 4 of those if you want. Boom. Just because you also get DP increase, and if you need to swing over a mega that's at 12, 13, even 14, if you have this Greymon underneath with that Agumon underneath, now you're getting 4,000 DP, bumping you up to 15,000. So that's also a good way to kind of swing over something. So we can do those 4. Now the last 2, so I play usually 10 champions, sometimes 12, really depending on how many Tamers and options you want to run. That kind of dictates how many champions or ultimates or rookies I put in. So usually the last 2 champions that I put in a deck, they're either going to be tech or they're kind of going to help me turbo in a way. So by tech, I mean, for example here, usually Agunimons are good techs just because if you need a final swing, you can Digivolve on top of a Tamer and then you can go ahead and swing for game. So Agunimon is a good choice here. If you want to turbo, Monochromon is always good here, especially with that one. And now a new one did come out and that might be good just because he's red and black, and that would mean you could Digivolve on top of that black Agumon, so that's also a good route to take. But honestly, I think this let me see, I can't if I find it, here we go. So honestly, I think this Greymon X Shiny Body is a must just because you can Digivolve on top of a Greymon and obviously the Agumon. But the reason why this one is so clutch is because Greymon always needed protection, not just from option cards, but you know, being deleted as a whole. And you know, you take your time to build up into this mega and then you swing and then you hit an option or it dies or whatnot, then you really can't save it and all that hard work goes to waste. And that's what this Greymon X Shiny Body does, is all turns when this Digimon has Greymon or Omnimon in its name and an effect would delete it or return it to your hand or deck, you may trash 2 cards of the same level in this Digimon's Digivolution cards to prevent it from leaving play. So this is very, very good. So honestly, like if I wanted to see more of him, I would probably put him at 4 and leave this Greymon at 2. And there we go, now we got our 10. So that is one thing that I could do. Or you can put 3 X Shiny Bodies and put 1 Agunimon if you really want to have that hybrid option to swing for last for game. So there we go. So let's say we're going to go with those champions there. And now we're going to move on to our level 5s. So now we were talking about weaknesses here, and the weakness that, for example, War Greymon would have if you have all this security attack +1 is that if you get blocked, then all that goes away. You can no longer check, right? So a good one to have would be a card that would give it piercing, right? So then that way, if they choose to block, it doesn't matter because now you're going to swing over it and you're still going to do your security attack checks. So that's why this Metal Greymon is so clutch. When attacking, this Digimon deletes a... when this Digimon attacks a player, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP. Keep in mind, you will get that DP increase from Greymon and Agumon if you have it underneath, and then you get to draw 2 from Koromon. So that's also good. Eventually, you could get this up to 11,000 DP, which is pretty good. More than likely, you'll survive. Or you'll get a security attack +1 and then you get to delete 4000 DP or less. Just keep in mind that you have to attack a player in order for this effect to resolve. You can't attack a Digimon and then have this effect trigger. It doesn't work that way. But again, we're playing this because the inherit your turn while this Digimon has Machine or Dragonkin in its traits, it gains piercing. Now, if you don't know what piercing means, really is, well, I guess it's in parentheses, right? But if a Digimon attacks a Digimon and it survives, then it goes ahead and performs the security check as it normally would. So I am going to run 4 of these because I do want to see that one. Boom, there we go. We do have those. And now we have the new Metal Greymon X Shiny Body, which can be a good option because it kind of runs with that security attack, you know, kind of synergy that I got going on, right? You Digivolve 0 for Metal Greymon, then when you Digivolve, it gains security attack +1. So potentially you could swing with this one, you get security attack +1 from this one, and you get another security attack from the Greymon, the starter deck Greymon. So now you're checking 3 in total with an ultimate. That's kind of clutch. But let's keep moving on. Let's see what else we can find here. This Metal Greymon, this one is really not gonna work with this deck because we're not focusing on deleting Digimon, we're focusing on kind of OTK. So just because this inherit is when one of your opponent's Digimon is deleted, gain 1 memory, it's not going to come up often because we're always going to go for security. Another option that we could use is this Alterius mode. When you Digivolve, if this Digimon has Metal Greymon in its name or in its Digivolution cards, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less. But then the inherit is your turn, it gets 2000 DP if it's a Greymon or an Omnimon, I believe. Yep, Omnimon or Greymon gets 2000. So if you wanted more DP, Alterius is another way to go. This Metal Greymon was used back in the day, but again, now since not many blockers are being used, it's kind of, I don't want to say pointless, but you won't see this effect trigger as much. So, and then I know we have we could also use we could use the dual colored one, and for some reason it's not appearing. Oh, because I have red. Oops. Whoopsies. Hold on. Okay. So this one is another one we can use, right? However, it's a 4-cost Evo, 8000 DP, 1 Digivolving, de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. If it has no Digivolution cards or becomes a level 3 Digimon, you can't trash anymore. Then delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP. So I'm not going to use this one, and the reason being is because I'm not going to focus on attacking Digimon, right? Because then here it is, while this Digimon has Dragonkin and Machine in its traits, it can also attack your opponent's unsuspended Digimon. I'm not going to focus on that, so I'm not going to use that one. I am going to go ahead and probably add, if I could find it, we have another Alterius mode that's coming out in BT9. Here it is. Okay, yeah, that's not all yet. So here it is. So Metal Greymon Alterius mode, it's a promo. Okay, so if you don't get it, but this one would be good in this because Digivolves from 0 to Metal Greymon. When Digivolving, if you have a Tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 5000 DP or less. And then all turns, if an effect would delete this Digimon with Greymon or Omnimon in its name, or return it to its owner's hand or deck, you may prevent it from leaving play by discarding 2 cards with the same level and discards Digivolution cards. So you could play this one in case you don't have the X Antibody Greymon underneath. Now you're gonna have this promo Alterius mode underneath, which will kind of do the same thing. Not only that, you can Digivolve onto this on top of that Metal Greymon that we have down here, and it does gain piercing. In this case, let's say we're not gonna get a hold of the promo Alterius, so we're just gonna go ahead and probably put 4 of these Alterius here, or you can do two Alterius, and then you can do 2 of the new X Antibody if you want. It really doesn't matter, up to you. This could help with the security check and kind of be a little more aggressive. So let's say we do that. So now we have 8 ultimates. So ultimates, usually you can run 7, 8. You do see them a lot sometimes, but then 8 is still kind of the sweet spot to get your ultimates. So we're just gonna run 8 in this case. And then we got onto our megas here, right? So we got 4. Now for megas, your main mega you always want to run 4 of, because that's kind of, you know, what you're building off of, right? Now usually I run 6 because I like to add 2 tech megas, and what I mean by tech is they kind of do something similar or something that synergizes with this whole deck here. Let's go back into War Greymon here. Okay, so now I could look through all these War Greymons and kind of see what would help. You could use X Antibody here. Reason I am not going to use this X Antibody on this list is because I'm going to attack with this War Greymon when I Digivolve into it. And if I do that, I go into this X Antibody, it's not going to trigger any of the effects after I Digivolve because he's going to be suspended. I'm not going to be able to go ahead and swing with this X Antibody unless I Digivolve into this X Antibody from the beginning. So a card that I could use here is I could use this War Greymon just because it has Blitz, right? So in Digivolving, even if it passes turn, you can go ahead and swing, and then if you have the security attack +1 from the Greymon, or if you have piercing from the Metal Greymon, it's gonna go through. What's good is when attacking, when this Digimon attacks a player, if you have a Tamer in play, delete one of your opponent's Digimon with blocker, which is good. It's going to be a good matchup against X Antibody Metal Garurumon, so that's a good one to use. So I could put, in this case, let's put 1, and then another one that I would put is actually the starter deck 1 War Greymon, just because it helps with that security attack that I'm going for. So this one is for every 2 Digivolution cards this Digimon has, it gains security attack +1. Mind you, there is some X Antibody options here, so I could possibly get up to 6 Digivolution cards underneath, giving this a total of security attack +3, right? So let's say I go ahead and add that one, and now you're gonna have piercing too with that Metal Greymon. So there's no way they're gonna be able to stop that, even if they block. So you can either run 2 of those or just 1 and 1. whatever you want to choose. But in this case, since with the Blitz, it might come in clutch, but there could be ways to reduce Digivolution costs. So what I'm going to do is just leave 4 and 2. I like to keep it a little simple, but again, it's just a choice that you can make when you're building decks. And then now we're going to move on into our Tamers here. Keep in mind, you can use any Tamers. It doesn't matter what the color is. So just an FYI, but you really got to see if they're going to synergize with your deck as a whole. So now here, right off the bat, I just have to add this tie because we're focusing on security attack +1 and then this tie. So what's good is, so with deck building, usually you want to have 4 Tamers. Sometimes there's 6, even 8, even 9 sometimes, but it really depends on the mega that you're building off of. So for example, when I used to do my All Force deck, I actually have like 8 or 9 Tamers because the Tamers kind of help All Force to keep attacking and unsuspending. So when I look for Tamers, is I look for 2 things. Is the first effect being a memory set Tamer, right? Because I always want to be at 3. And then the second effect is how is I going to help my Digimon that I'm building. So tie actually works for both, because as long as your Digimon is red with 4 or more Digivolution cards, it gains security attack +1. So usually, like, okay, with these, I'm like, I'll probably put 3, especially if I'm going to add another Tamer. If you're only going to go with this Tamer, then I'll add the 4. That way you could see it as much as possible. But keep in mind with this tie, if you Digivolve into an Alterius mode or this X Antibody, you're going to have 4 evolutions underneath. So now this X Antibody Metal Greymon will have security attack +1, +2 from tie, and then if you have Greymon underneath, it'll be +3. So it can get pretty nasty here. Now, other Tamers that you can use for this specific deck, you can use Marcus. It's a memory set Tamer, and then when you attack, if you're attacking with a Digimon with Greymon in its name, you can suspend this Tamer to gain 1 memory. So that's also good. However, I personally don't like Marcus so much because you have to attack to trigger his effect. And what we want to do here, for example, the reason why it's not going to work so much is because, well, this War Greymon's 4, right? If you're left at 3, you need that extra memory. You can't Digivolve, attack, and then suspend Marcus and then get that memory back, because then your turn will end. You would have to attack with your ultimate to suspend Marcus, get that memory, and then you Digivolve. And now you're just going to have a suspended War Greymon, so it's not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down to 3, because the other kind of little hiccup that we could run into is lack of memory, especially if we just draw this War Greymon. So what I'm going to do is I am going to add a Nokia here, and boom, there she goes. So Nokia is really good for Agumon and Gabumon decks, just because on play, when you play this Nokia, you can play 1 Agumon or Gabumon from your hand, and then any on plays that those Agumons have do trigger, so keep that in mind. So when you use Nokia and you Digivolve into a Garurumon or a Greymon in its name, or an Omnimon, you can suspend Nokia to reduce it by 1, right? So you may suspend this Tamer to reduce the memory cost of that Digivolution by 1. So now if you have multiple Nokias, you can, reduce it by 1, 2, 3, depending how many Nokias you have in play. So now if we're running just 3, I can put 2 Nokias or I can put 3. Really depends how much you want to see them. Right, so now I have 3, so if I have 1 Nokia in play, I can just tap it, Digivolve into War Greymon. Now it's going to cost me 3, or is it going to cost 2 for this War Greymon? So I'm going to choose to leave it at 3. So now we have 6 Tamers in total. So now we have 42 out of 50 cards left. So that we got some room to work with. And here, what I do next is like, okay, well, now let's move on to options and see what I would like to add for options. So we're gonna hit this wrench here, go to red, go to options, and then hit save. So now we move on to the red option cards, right? And what would be another weakness that I could kind of help make this deck balance out would probably be removal, right? There's no kind of cards that can help me remove any cards or get over like big body cards. So right off the bat, you can definitely use Gaia Force if you want. You could use this new Gaia Force 0, but it's not really going to come in handy because you need that X antibody in order for it to trigger, right? Another thing is you can swing into a Digimon that's higher than you, and then you can get deleted. So maybe the option of jamming here could come into play. But again, we're going with removal, so we can do a Gaia Force here. Delete one of your opponent's Digimon, plain and simple, right? It's doesn't matter the level, doesn't matter the DP, and then the security effect is it just activates. So we can run some Gaia Forces. Another good option would be an Atomic Blaster, although now we have a new one, and I think the new one is a little better because you can delete 10,000 DP or less, right? Choose any number of your opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 10,000 or less and delete them. So that's another option that you could go with. Boom, right? Or you can do Gigastorm. Gigastorm I used, especially you know, with the whole Mastemon going around and Pyojamon going around. You know, they're always gonna have 2 ultimates or 2 champions or whatnot, and this card allows you to delete both of them because it tells you delete up to 2 of your opponent's Digimon with 8,000 DP or less, and then in security it triggers the main effect. So this is also a good card to have. Now I'm just clicking here on the cards that I would like to add, and then I kind of go back and see what I'm really gonna keep, right? Another one would be offensive plugin. If you really want more security attack, you can, right? So you can use this card, get a security attack +1 for the turn. And then here, the security, reveal 3 cards, add 1 tamer among them from your hand, place this card in your hand. So it's also a good option to have if you want to. The red memory boosts, or memory boosts in general, are always very, very good because they do 2 things. They help you search, and they help you get memory after it's played. So, you know, after the first turn, then you can activate it and then you get to memory. So red memory boost is always really, really good. So main effect, reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, add 1 red Digimon card among them to your hand, and then place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck. And then delay, after you play it, you know, on the next turn, you can trash this card to gain 2 memory. So in case we don't have Nokia here, we could use this red memory boost to go into that War Greymon with this one here, the 4 cost, if we need to, and kind of maintain it our turn. So red memory boost, I think it's going to be a must, and it's going to just help synergize here as well. Those are the option cards that I would probably play. A Delicate Plan is good to run, but since I have 4 of these War Greymons here, and then I have the War Greymon X antibody, it's kind of doing that already for me. So that would just take up a slot that I could just use another card for, if that makes sense. Drawing power, this is also a good option. You can play a trigger, draw 2 cards. Then if you have a Digimon with Draymon or Greymon in its name, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 4,000 DP or less. So that's also a good option if you want to. Gravity Crush is a good tech card because when you play it, it's a free cost. You gain 2 memory, and then at the end of the turn, you lose 2 memory. So if you can end up winning in that turn, you can just play Gravity Crush, and then kind of doesn't matter because you're going to win anyway. Those are just some of the options that you could run in this deck. Now, let's see here. So how many would I actually really want to run? I think what I would do is, what we could do is, I would definitely want 2 red memory boost just to kind of help with the searching and even out my memory when I digivolve into that War Greymon. A Gaia Force, I think, is needed, especially with this whole X antibody coming out now. You're gonna see big stacks of Digimon that you're really not gonna run into, you know, Digimon with 2 Digimon with 8,000 DP or less. So then we can take out that Gigastorm and add another Gaia Force, and there we go. We can keep this Atomic Blaster here if you choose to, or we can remove it and just add the 3rd Gaia Force and just have 3, right? So then let's say we add the 3rd one. Now here, another downside of this deck that you will run into is if you swing with the War Greymon, and it doesn't matter if he has 1 security left, you still need an additional swing to go for game, right? So now what I would do here is I would actually add, if you guys have watched my videos, you guys already know I love my Omnimons, and especially this Blitz Omnimon right here, because when you digivolve, it has Blitz, so Doesn't matter if it's going to be your opponent's turn, you can still swing and attack. But the most, well, equally as important is when digivolving, you unsuspend this Digimon. So you swing with the War Greymons, you leave them at 0, you digivolve into Omnimon, you unsuspend and you get to swing again, and that's how you will close out games. And then all turns, if an opponent's effect will delete this Digimon or return it to its owner's hand or deck, you may prevent it from leaving play by trashing a level 6 Digimon card in this Digivolution sources to leave it on the field, right? So I'm gonna add 2. Usually with level 7s, 2 are always kind of the sweet spot. Let me tell you why. So if you just run 1, let's say you shuffle, and now that Omnimon's all the way in the bottom, you're never gonna get to it. The second one will kind of help. You could add a 3rd one if you want, but then I feel like you're gonna see it too much. So it really depends how often you really want to see your level 7s. So in this case, if I don't have a hybrid, if I'm not running any hybrids, I would probably play 3, right? Because I'm not gonna have any other way to close out. Or if you really want to, you could just take that away. And since you have 3 ties, I would probably just add 1 Agunimon, right? I would just add 1 Agunimon. That way I can use it to close games out if I have the memory left. Since I do have 3 ties, just keep in mind that it can only be digivolved on top of a red tamer. It would not work with Nokia. So now that we kind of finished off this deck list, remember I said I do go back and I kind of see, now that I have a whole deck list, if cards would really fit. So now in this case, we are going to go back into this Agumon here, this BT8 one, and the searcher, the other searcher, the Agumon, here's where this searcher Agumon would be so much better in this list, because we are running Omnimon, so that would be another way for you to get Omnimon into your hand. And then of course, not to mention, you can digivolve onto this Agumon into a Greymon, so it is just going to be better in this case. So we're going to add those 2 and take off those, and there we go. So overall, here's the whole deck list that we just made together. So this is my process on how I build decks. Remember, Digi-Eggs, you can go 4 to 5. 4 are pretty good because you want to see the consistency of that Digi-Eggs ability that you want to use. And then rookies, you can go 12 to 14. Really, just, you don't want to go under 12 or 10 just because you don't want to brick. Champions, you want to go up to 10. You could do, in this case here, we're doing 11, but that's because we're doing the tech Agunimon here, since we're not adding that 3rd Omnimon. And then ultimates, 8, 9, 10. If you see more than 10, 11, 12, that's really more kind of being used right now for Mastemon, since it's you know, you DNA 2 ultimates into Mastemon. So 8 ultimates is the sweet spot. Megas, 4 of the main one, and then 2, 3 tech cards if you want. The only way you're going to see 8 or more than 8 megas is, I think, now with this whole X Antibody that's coming out. A lot of the X Antibody megas could digivolve on top of megas, so that would be the only time I think you would see more than 8 megas or 8 megas in general. And then obviously the level 7s, 2 to 3 is the good ratio that you want to go with. Options and Tamers, that's totally up to your preference and depending on how you think they would help your overall deck list. So there you have it, guys. If you guys enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like and comment down below. If you guys would like for me to do another color, I am more than happy to do it, and I will see you guys on the next video.